Test 1 2, test 1 2 3, test.
That's Lisa's way of saying it's 6 o'clock. I called this meeting to order. If you would stand and say the pledge, and there'll be an invocation from Jamie Rouch following. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, I come before you tonight, and I thank you so much for your love and your mercy and your grace on our lives. I thank you that salvation is free to us all, and I thank you, Lord, for our country and for our city and for the blessings that you've given to us. I ask you, Lord, tonight for wisdom for all that are in this room, wisdom and understanding and the ability to just to have discernment tonight as we make decisions to help our city move forward and still be a city strong and founded on you. Thank you so much for who you are. Thank you for my life and my family. In Jesus' name, amen.
Madam Clerk, we get a roll call, please.
Denham.
Here.
Gaines.
Here.
Cooper. Here. Milton.
Here.
Fenton.
Here.
Whitus.
Here.
C. Here. Your Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, I am giving out a proclamation. I am proclaiming October 5th, 2021 as the 6th Annual National Night Out, and I'd ask Chief Matthews to come down and get it. I'd like to take a minute and read this proclamation. Whereas in 1984, National Night Out started as a unique nationwide community building program focusing on a building and strengthening camaraderie between neighborhoods and public safety personnel, with the emphasis on safety and crime prevention. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch reports 38 million people in 16,000 communities participating in National Night Out events across the country. Whereas National Night Out events give residents an opportunity to meet, get to know each other and their local law enforcement, fire department, and other organizations who work to keep our communities healthy and safe. And whereas National Night Out is a proactive prevention program with goals on community involvement, awareness, knowledge, and cooperation in areas of safety, anti-crime, drugs, and violence. And whereas this event is a collaboration of the City of Branson Police Department, fire departments, park and recreation departments, city council, and several other departments. Now, therefore, I, Larry Milton, Mayor of the City of Branson, Missouri, do hereby proclaim October 5th, 2021 as the 6th Annual National Night Out.
Remember to smile.
Thank you, Mayor, for that proclamation and placing an importance on National Night Out. These citizens that were up here, Rayanne Zern from Galewood Street, Tina Marie from Park Place Apartments, Ken Lago from Park Terrace neighborhood, Shannon Whitworth from the Branson Park Apartments, and Sherry Grisham from Shady Drive. These are just 5 of the 13 community leaders who have volunteered to host National Night Out events this year. And we appreciate their continued support into this program. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much. We appreciate you. This is the public comment section of the Board of Aldermen meeting. At this time, the board will hear from citizens who have signed up in the order they are listed. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Yes, we do. Doug Clark, 121 St. Andrews Street, Branson, Missouri, speaking on COVID treatment protocols.
I've
Hello,
been
Doug.
coming up here for about a year and a half or so on this issue of COVID, and the more you dig into it, the more you find out that there's a lot of obfuscating of the truth going on within the whole thing, and a lot of people have not really done their due diligence on calling a lot of our elected and non-elected officials on the national level out for what they have been doing. The real pathetic thing about it is we have a guy by the name of Mr. Fauci, and he has a lot of conflicts of interest pushing the main treatments for protocols for people that are in the hospital that have been designated as COVID and worthy of being in there, mainly if their blood, their oxygen levels go below 80 and they get admitted. Prior to about March of last year, if somebody came to the hospital, especially in New York, and they found out they were just barely sick, they sent them back home to the nursing homes, okay? And then some of the doctors in the area, one of them by the name of Dr. Zelenko, figured out that if he used certain things, he could keep these people out of the hospital and keep them alive. So he's treated about 7,000 people, and kept them out of the hospitals and out of the protocols that Mr. Fauci designated. And what he decided to do, he had a drug called Ricitamir, which was a treatment for Ebola back in 2009. And when they did the trials for that in Angola, they found out that it killed 53% of the people that they used it on in Africa, so they pulled it off the market. And it was off the market until he decided that they were going to use this for COVID-19 treatments. And so when you went in the hospital after March, that's what they gave you, and it gives you renal failure, kidney failure. So what the doctors were seeing in New York was that they had never seen a coronavirus or a flu or anything related to this type of virus that caused renal failure. And so the light bulb started going off on some people, and they started researching this and found out that he had put the kibosh on hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin as a treatment, which have never killed anybody with any kind of renal problems. So we were putting people in the hospital and actually murdering them with the treatments that they have. And I mean, there's doctors right now that you don't hear on national TV that will tell you what has been happening with this. And our news media in this country has done a disservice to a lot of these doctors that have been sticking their necks out trying to explain this to everybody, what's going on. And to this day, even in the CDC protocols for treatment, in a certain table on a certain page, Ricitamir is the #1, and ivermectin is still approved to be used. But our friendly Mr. Fauci, who hasn't treated a patient since he's been in his position, is telling us that the whole system in this country cannot use ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. One of them is a Nobel Prize-winning medication, which is ivermectin, and they've been used for 40 to 75 years. And so the doctors that have really been out there trying to train people on how to keep people out of the hospital so they don't end up having kidney failure. And in addition to that, they have found out that you can still use some of these things even if you've had the COVID shots and you end up in the hospital with a secondary COVID treatment, some of these things will still work on that. Okay? This is stuff that are renowned doctors. One of them is named Dr. McCullough. And I would suggest everybody look these people up and see what they've had to say. Another one is Dr. let's see, Bartlett, he's another one. The Dr. McCullough is a very famous cardiologist. It's peer-reviewed for years. And guess what happened to him? He got fired from his hospital as the director of the cardiology unit in his hospital for speaking out. And this is the track record of our elected officials and non-elected officials that have perpetrated this menagerie on us that we've dealt with for over a year and a half, including masks. When it comes down to it, they probably murdered about 200,000.
30 seconds.
200,000 people out of the 500,000 they're saying that died because of this by the wrong protocols that they've used. But I would look at America's frontline doctors. There's another group of them that will treat people and give you the prescriptions for ivermectin, and they'll get you to the pharmacies where you can order it so you have it. And in 2 days, most people feel better, even if they've got 80% oxygen levels.
Time.
So I would say, if you know of anybody that's sick, you better check this stuff out with these doctors' protocols, and you might be saving somebody's life.
Thank you, Doug. Madam Clerk, any other speakers?
Our next speaker is Michael London. His address is 1620 Miller Drive, Branson, Missouri, speaking on city assets, lost or stolen report.
Good evening, Michael London, 1620 Miller Drive. I got a ton of respect for you gentlemen and lady, for all the diverse topics that you've got to handle, and I give you my hats off for handling it. I've been in the community for 27 years. I'm the publisher of a magazine that goes out to the tour operators of the U.S. and Canada called Branson Update. Probably most of you have never, two of you have seen it, I know, the most read, not because all of the copies go sent out all over to the country, and they're used to plan the motor coach tours to town. During that 27 years, I've served on a dozen or so community improvement, community extension boards and committees. The one I'm most proud of is that for over a decade, I was considered to be Dan Lennon's kitchen cabinet, because we met once a week or every other week and talked about things that couldn't be talked about out in public for a variety of reasons, but it was behind the scenes research on how to create a more tourism to come to Branson. And as many of you know, Dan went on to become the state of Missouri Director of Tourism. So I was in pretty good company on pretty high level information during that period of time. But tonight I'm here as a citizen, not as a businessman. Because I believe that a citizen has a duty to inform the city if he sees a valuable asset, either stolen or allowed to lose its value due to neglect. City asset can be worth millions of dollars, has suffered such a fate in Branson. First, a little context. What do you think the value of the name Mardi Gras is to the city of New Orleans? Millions, right? Mm-hmm. Multiple millions of dollars. So if some newfangled idea came into a city, and or particular New Orleans, and got rid of Mardi Gras and decided to call that season something else, there'd be a heck of a to-do about it, wouldn't it? Well, that's what's happened in Branson, right under our nose, right under our watch. And it's been done without any research or community okay. If such a thing happened in New Orleans, they'd take them out, tar and feather them. A trade name, a tagline, or a logo has extreme value to cities and corporations. It's used to unify the memories around the event. When a person sees them, their brain releases endorphins and memories. Well, for one of Branson's most important trade lines, those memories can no longer be attached because we've dropped the name. Branson's had its trade name intentionally or unintentionally dropped. Oddly enough, it's so crazy that city councils of the past didn't believe it when over 30 business people came before them to ask them to take responsibility to look at the situation. None of this existing board was here in 2015 when that effort began. However, in years 2016, 17, and 18, and 19, videos have been released by myself about this particular issue, including me coming to the board in 2019. The words Ozark Mountain Christmas have been dropped from Branson's marketing, seemingly in favor of America's Christmas tree city, despite overwhelming community and watchdog efforts to not have this happen. As of today, despite being well inside the 60-day window of marketing for Ozark Mountain Christmas, which begins on November 1st, those words do not appear on the community's official website, Christmas landing page. Instead, America's Christmas Tree City does. It's not on any
30 seconds.
It's not on any of the other pages that link directly to that. There's a significant documented history how that occurred. I have all of that information. I beg you, for the sake of the community, to look into this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, just for the record, I attended the CVB meeting when they made their presentation to the TCED board and raised the same question with them. And Rachel offered to sit down with me and show me the places that Ozark Mountain Christmas is on our website and how they're marketing it in addition to the website. And we just haven't been able to coordinate dates yet, but I will report back to you after that meeting.
I'll make a videotape of what appears on the community website today and send it to all of you so that you have the realistic view of how it appears today.
Thank you, Michael. Any additional speakers?
That's all of our speakers.
Next is the consent agenda. Are there any items that any member in the audience would like to have removed from the consent agenda or ask additional questions about? Any items the board would like moved down? Madam Clerk, would you please read the items on the consent agenda?
Your Honor, the items on the consent agenda are as follows. Approval of the Board of Aldermen minutes for the September 14th, 2021 regular meeting. Acknowledge receipt of Finance Committee minutes for the July 9th, 2021 regular meeting and July 19th, 2021 regular meeting. Acknowledge receipt of Planning Commission minutes for the August 3rd, 2021 study session and regular meeting. Acknowledge receipt of Human Resources Committee minutes for the August 18th, 2021 meeting. Final reading of Bill Number 6047, an ordinance approving the Employee Wellness Plan for City of Branson employees to complete in 2022 for tier determination for discounted medical insurance in 2023. Final reading of Bill Number 6048, an ordinance accepting the proposal of Sloan's Lawn and Landscaping for tree and plant removal services and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill Number 6049, an ordinance approving the renewal of the contract with UniFirst Corporations pertaining to the rental of uniforms and shop towels and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill Number 6050, an ordinance approving the addendum with Table Rock Asphalt Construction Company Incorporated for stone and hot mix asphalt and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Your Honor, that concludes the reading of the consent agenda. The floor is open for a motion approving all items on the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote on the consent agenda. There's always one, and this is our one. Well, you're the other one.
Your Honor, that motion passes 6-0. Your Honor, the next item is the moving of the Board of Aldermen study session start time. The floor is open for a motion changing the Board of Aldermen study session start time from 12:30 PM to 1:30 PM.
Is there any discussion from the board? Any questions from the audience? Oh. You want to come up?
My name's Noah Prallo. My address is 203 South Fork. What's the study session?
Thanks for asking, Noel. It is a meeting that is called for the aldermen to be able to discuss different items. It's typically not a arena for getting community input based on a number of things, including sunshine laws. The seven of us, we can't communicate unless it's in a public forum, public meeting. So a study session is a public meeting that gives us an opportunity to have discussions and openly discuss them in front of the public. Thanks for asking. We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. And just for some clarity, we're adjusting this time so we can have as many members of the board available. And at our last Tuesday's meeting, Alderman Cooper was unable to attend. And so we pulled the item down for the TCD nominees because we wanted to have a full board make those decisions. Everybody's voted?
No, Alderman Denham has not voted.
It's the same thing as mine, it's just locking up.
A voice vote on that, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Aye.
I've got everybody else. Thank you. We have a motion passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the next item is a resolution approving a special event permit application for Branson's Adoration Parade. The floor is open for a motion adopting the resolution.
We have a motion and a second. We'll now have a staff report from Joel Hornicle.
Mayor, members of the board, good evening. This is a request for the 73rd Annual Adoration Parade in Branson. They've requested to hold it this year on Sunday, December the 5th, between 5:30 and 7:30 in the historic downtown Branson. They are asking for setup to begin 10 a.m. that morning and cleanup to be completed by 9 p.m. They will be utilizing the same route that they've done so the last several years. Therefore, it's been categorized as a level 3 event by staff. As you can see, here's the route that they've utilized and plan to this next year. As in years past, there will again be music, floats, high school bands, and Santa Claus. City staff will be assisting, as they always do as well, with setting up the main stage and the sound amplification. And we're expecting about 4,000 attendees to witness the parade that evening in downtown Branson. Staff does recommend approval of the request, and just as a reminder, we always like to let you know the cost incurred by staff for the event, which is anticipated to be $12,788.76. And you all have the option through Branson Municipal Code Section 94-65H to recoup any of those costs if you so choose. Happy to answer any questions.
Joel, how was this event affected with our event fees that are charged?
So the event fees that were amended last year into the 3-tier system, this being the level 3, it did increase their overall fees by about $400.
So, and for dollar amounts, the fee used to be,
It was, I think, 113.
and so now it's 513?
Yes, approximately. Yep, that's right.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Questions or comments from the board?
IT broke her computer over here.
Well, I'd give her mine, but I don't get one. I would like to bring up, and I think it may be coming up pretty soon, the discussion of the increased event fees. I mean, I couldn't think of two better examples than the Adoration Parade or our Veterans Parade, where I think we need to look at those, but we'll do that another time. No comments on the board? Are you ready to vote? Let's vote.
Would please voice vote? Yes. Thank you. That motion is carried 6-0. Your Honor, the next item is first reading Bill Number 6052, an ordinance approving a zoning change from mixed-use MU to high-density residential HDR for the properties located at 705 Blue Meadows Road, Branson, Missouri. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading Bill Number 6052. We have a motion and a second.
Are there, now we'll have a staff report from Joel Hornickel.
Mayor, members of the board, as stated in the title, this is a request for a zoning change on a property located between Falls Parkway and Blue Meadows Road. There's a vicinity map for you. The subject properties are outlined in purple for reference. It is actually 3 lots that are included in tonight's request, just under 5 acres in size. This property was annexed into the city back in 1993 and was commercially zoned up until the rezoning effort about 3 years ago when the city, working with the community, went through that process, and this property was identified as mixed use. The reason for that was because the Community Plan 2030's preferred future land use plan recommended that this area between Falls Parkway and Blue Meadows shift to a residentially zoned district, and the mixed use was a perfect complement to what it had been, commercial, and what the intent was with residential, as you can do both residential and commercial in that zoning district. However, recently, Mr. Pearman did purchase this property. He's had great success with his adjacent property to the northwest for self-storage. And just a desire to help clean up the property. It's had a lot of vagrants, a lot of issues, so he's trying to clean it up and also invest in the area. So to do that self-storage expansion, he would be unable to do that with the mixed-use zoning. So he had 2 options to either do community commercial or high-density residential. Community commercial, it would be a permitted use. High-density residential, it would require a special use permit with the Planning Commission. After working with staff, he did decide to make the request to pursue high-density residential zoning or down-zoning the property, reducing the amount of allowed uses for the property. And so therefore, staff did support it. We did take this to the Planning Commission at their September meeting. However, the Planning Commission failed to second the request, so we do not have their recommendation for you all this evening. Happy to answer any questions.
Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Come on up.
My name's Terry Whalen. I live right down the road at 398 Blue Meadows Road, which is a little bit further south than that property. The only thing that I was worried about, like I'd mentioned before, the road, Blue Meadows Road, is not feasible for a lot of traffic now. And you can barely pass a car on each side as it is. It goes from like I've gone out there with a tape measure, and in some places it's 14 foot wide. So, and the only other thing is, what's it do to my house property value and everything with this many units coming in on storage units? I don't have anything against somebody building property and stuff like that. But what I'd like them to put in some type of ordinance is maybe a fencing or buffer system, if they would look at that for us, to where it's bad enough we have all the condos and everything else across from us at the subdivision, and an unbelievable amount of traffic. But we'd like to, the falls, the 4-lane on the falls on the other side was put there for any expansion, any building. We'd just like for the traffic to go to that side and at least have a buffer or something that we don't have to look at it or down value our property on the other side. And that's basically what a lot of us in the subdivision been talking about. You know, if they can just work with us on that and make it to where it's not just something really ugly to look at, do something with it, and maybe something with our road, you know, because of the traffic that we do have with all the condos and hotels. That's all I was asking.
What's the name of that street on this side, my friend?
This side?
This side over here far.
Yeah, that's Blue Meadows.
This is Blue Meadows.
Thank you.
That's
And
Blue
this
Meadows.
is Falls.
That goes to our subdivision, is right on the other side of that lot right here.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of lost. Where is the Craft Mall right here? Is it back in here?
That's there.
Okay, there, okay, yeah.
And his storage sheds are right there.
That's the okay, okay, now I'm with you.
And if you're putting more storage sheds back over here with regular chain link fencing, I just wish there was some other type of fencing or something that you could put up besides that, just to kind of separate it. And I'm sure that the people that own all the condos up in here that have bought units and everything they'd be appreciated too.
And where is your home, sir?
Just right about there.
Oh, that back at that little housing's back, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blue Meadows subdivision.
So you're requesting what? Or what would you like to see done?
Like where you see the purple line along our road? Some type of fencing or something, or the buffer that they told us that we were gonna have last time between looking right across the street from my house at this hotel that they were putting up, that there was gonna be like a 30-foot buffer and all this. And we said, oh, that'd be fantastic. That way it just would kind of, there's 5 or 6 trees. And a big power plant that comes on when the power goes off.
Generator?
Big, yeah. And it's the small things that add up after a while, and you go, okay, this is gonna get out of hand if we don't come up here and at least, you know, tell our part of it, and
Sure.
maybe they'll understand.
Joel, are there any requirements for any kind of a fencing or anything, a buffer?
So we do have supplementary use standards in the zoning code for self-storage. So he would be obligated to meet those criteria. A lot of them are the drive lanes, that it has to be paved, that the garage doors for the storage units can't be visible from the public right-of-way, and that fencing is provided. Mark worked very closely with staff on his other units to provide fencing other than chain link. And I would assume he would be pursuing a very similar aesthetic as well, because he has expressed his desire to have a property that looks good as well. That's reason why the staff really worked with the applicant towards the high-density residential zoning, so that it would require him to do the special use permit to go back through the planning commission and discuss all these topics in detail. The zoning is simply to kind of define what's possible, the uses for the property, and then the special use permit will take it to the next level of detail to really iron out those things.
Joel, I got a quick question. I was, when I talked to Mark, he was going to enter on this side, off of this street.
Jeff, when I talked to Mark, he said this had a 3 or 4 foot cliff on it, and he.
Right, I saw that.
And he intending on entering off of here.
Yep.
Mark is he's a respectable property owner in town. He does things right. I just didn't know if the fencing would be a requirement for him to do this.
There is a requirement for fencing. It doesn't specify the type.
Yeah.
But it does very much speak to landscaping. There's a significant landscaping requirement for this property because it's bounded on 2 sides by public right-of-way. And so he does have to provide that perimeter green space along both sides. So that will additionally provide some softening for the use to the adjacent properties.
What is the buffer requirement? Because like the gentleman said, he don't want just 2 or 3 trees. He'd like it to be guaranteed, I think is what he's, that it's some kind of cover.
Right, so there is no buffering requirement, just to be clear, it's a landscaping requirement that requires the applicant to install landscaping as part of his project. Inevitably, he will probably be clearing the majority of the property to achieve the grade necessary to get the pad sites and the paving at an acceptable slope to do what he's wanting to do, and then it's all about putting the landscaping back.
Any
Mr.
other-
Mayor, I just had a question.
go ahead.
Alderman Cooper brought up something and just wanted to ask Mr. Whalen for clarification. Did you request the ingress egress off of Falls Parkway and not Blue Meadows because the roads are in poor? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members in the audience?
Hi, my name is Darlene Whalen, 398 Blue Meadows Road. I do have a problem with it. If Mark already built some storage units, why didn't he just buy the 2 lots next to him instead of coming on the next street where we already have the condos, timeshares, motel across the street from us, more traffic. We have 18-wheelers. We used to have the ducks riding through there. We've got big box trucks that come over to the condos all the time. Traffic is really bad. GPS will send them off down 76 onto Fall Creek Road through our neighborhood just to go to the condos or the motel. I've even had them knock at my door trying to check in because they were given my address that I was the timeshare. We have enough traffic that we don't need more from storage units, and cleaning up the property doesn't mean putting storage units. It'd be like putting 76 and let's add a bunch of storage units up there. Takes away the look. How would you like it if you drove into your neighborhood, all you see is storage units? So I do have a problem with that. If he wants to build them, I want a solid fence, not a chain link fence with rose bushes around it. That's not just cleaning up because homeless people are in there. There's drug dealers, homeless, everything that's back in those woods. I've asked a couple of times by internet, and I called up here, and I asked that they mow, which they did after the last meeting. Because, the grass was this tall. Some people had to break branches to keep from hitting our cars. There's a lot that's next door to Palace View condos. It's 9 acres. Grass in there all the time, cars in there making drug deals, camping out. Nothing's ever done when you ask the city to do something. But it sounds like a threat also that if he can't get these storage units in there, well, I'll just build a bunch of apartments. How would you like that? I don't want to feel threatened. We have 2 blocks in our neighborhood, that's it. And we're surrounded by commercial property. So that's all I've got to say. But if there's going to be something there, it needs to have a study of how much traffic already goes down our road.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you all for giving me a minute to speak. I too live in Westward Meadows with Darla.
Excuse me, I need your name and address.
Okay,
please.
it's Jim Fowler. I live at 275 Bramble Lane, along with Miss Denham and Terry and Darlene. I don't, at the expense of being rude, I don't know how many of you other than Ruth have come over there to check. Our road, Bramble Lane, is not even wide enough for 2 cars to go without one of them moving over almost into the ditch. Now, I was a teacher, so I do counting. There have been times when there have been hundreds of cars that come down Bramble Lane to go to these areas that she talked about per day, day and night. This afternoon, there was a massive motorhome that came through there. Concrete trucks are going through there. My question is, if he puts in these buildings and it's on Google Maps, people are just going to cut through there to go to those storage units, no matter where they're located. And she's right, Blue Meadows is not much wider, and it's really curvy as Branson Meadows. So my desire would be, before you take the vote or whatever you're going to do, would you please come assess the situation, maybe talk to some of the neighbors, look at some of the traffic, and look at the roads. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Joel, did Mr. Perlman, did he share with you the traffic counts that he's anticipating or has experienced on his other properties?
No, again, that's a level of detail that we would get into with the special use permit and subsequent development activities. He's able to say that he'll do self-storage as part of the reason why he's doing the request, but by no means does it obligate him to do so. He could very much decide to do any of the other allowable uses in that zoning district after tonight's presentation. So that's why, at this point, we haven't gotten into those discussions with him in a whole lot of depth.
So for clarity, for the people here, the property right now, somebody could come in and apply for a permit to build apartments.
Absolutely.
So it's zoned for that purpose.
Absolutely.
Today.
Yes, as well as a multitude of other uses.
Yep. I had to let Alderman Cody know that we're in a meeting right now. And don't have time to visit.
Well, I do understand, if I could say, I understand their concerns about when, I mean, I don't think they're like, please, don't build this. They want to be reassured that it's neat and, it looks presentable and stuff like that. And my wife's family has a condo at Palace View, so I'm back in there all the time. I'm very familiar with the road and the property and all that. And I know Mr. Pierman, and like the mayor said, he is a respectable business. I mean, yep. I honestly believe that whatever he's going to do is going to be done extremely right, but I think you want that assurance is what I'm hearing.
So Joel, after tonight, we have another question? Come on up.
Charles Ivy, 226 Western Avenue at the intersection of Blue Meadows Lane. Last year when I was looking for a place to live, GPS sent me off the 76 down Fall Creek, up Bramble and on Western, like every other tourist.
Yeah.
You guys have been here a lot longer than I have, so I don't know all the nuances of the growth patterns that you've seen. I am a customer of Mr. Fairman's in that existing, and it's very professionally run. There's absolutely no problem with it at all. I love it. So there's no doubt in my mind that he would build something quality. Still, Blue Meadows is horrid. We were having to watch for deer because the grass was higher than the deer. and they run across all the time. Finally, it was cut just a few weeks ago. And the access to Blue Meadows is definitely a denigration to the entire neighborhood because of the condos that are there existing and because of the width of that road and the curbs in the road. There's no doubt about it. With all the traffic that's down there now, there's going to have to be some future addressing of that issue in its own right. Falls Parkway, divided, virtually 4-lane, is where the access for any and all development on these parcels and that parcel, even across the road from it, should come from, and not on Blue Meadows. And so that's my feeling. I concur with the majority of the people here.
Thank you, Mr. Ivy. Any other comments from the audience? Comments from the board?
Is Mr. Pearman here to answer any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Pearman was unable to be here this evening.
Thank you.
Nope. Go ahead.
Joel, this is just the first reading, but if this ultimately passed, the special use permit that would be required for that specific type of development, remind me again, would that come back to us to be able to weigh in on those?
The special use permit is the planning commissions. That's the one item that they do on your all's behalf where they approve it and they're the last body to do so. Obviously, we've had board members come to meetings in the past. You're always welcome. We will definitely notify you all and provide the required notification we're supposed to when that item comes forth. It hasn't been turned in yet, so it's not been scheduled at this time.
So in terms of, there's nothing we can really do in terms of preference of an entrance on Fall Parkway? Is it Falls Parkway?
Yeah.
Versus this other road. There's nothing we can do in the context of this rezoning request.
Again, the special use permit discussion, that's the appropriate time to work that out.
So for clarity, the process is tonight's a first reading. In a couple of weeks, it'll come up for a second reading, assuming it's approved. Following that would be a P&Z meeting for the special use permit.
That's right, and it's up to the applicant. It's his timeline. There's no required timeline on when he needs to get that special use permit request turned in, so it'll really be up to him.
This is just step one, and then all those other places will still come into effect.
That's correct. As I stated in the staff report, given what he believes he wants to utilize the property for, he had two options: to rezone to either community commercial or the high-density residential, and working with staff, he chose to go this route for high-density residential.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Oops, hold on, come on down.
Sherry Grisham at 449 Shady Drive, so I'm just across Fall Creek from Blue Meadows. What all can a special use permit be used for? I'd like to know what all he could do with that. That's my first question.
So the special use permit requires a specific request for a specific use, so it doesn't give him a wide net of opportunity. He has to be specific in what he's asking for that special use permit.
But if he wanted to do like more timeshare
Would you, I'm sorry, Sherry, would you speak in the mic, please?
So if he wanted to do more timeshare, nightly rentals, or small homes, or just anything, a special use is just anything that comes to his mind.
No. So in the Branson Municipal Code, that book that's sitting at the end of the desk up there, within Chapter 94, it speaks to all the different zoning districts. So within each zoning district, there are uses that are permitted by right, meaning someone can do it without any additional permissions. There are uses that can be done with a special use permit, which would require somebody to go to the Planning Commission and get their approval. And then there's uses that aren't allowed, not permitted. So under the high-density residential district, which the applicant's requesting for this property to be zoned, the self-storage unit use is listed as a special use. So if he wants to do just that use, it requires a special use permit. If he wants to do nightly rental or tiny home, that would be an allowed use today. And the code book does not require any additional permissions or approvals for those. So it just really depends on the use that he's wanting to do.
And then my second comment is, as someone who does drive that road a lot, you do need to go out there and see the conditions. And because there's so much timeshare there, many tourists walk that for their morning walks and their evening walks. And you do have to be, aware of them walking that road because there's nowhere else for them to walk out there. So I do think it's a bad idea to have, access from Blue Meadows. So that's just my comments.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Joel, that is a city street. Yes.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, for Joel. I'm a little bit confused, so maybe you can help me out here.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Since a motion was not made, it was neither approved nor denied,
Correct.
and it died for lack of a second.
Correct.
Doesn't that void it, and it needs to come back in a certain time? I'm confused
So
there.
the Planning Commission simply provides a recommendation on the request to you all. Since no recommendation was made, then that's the way we presented it to you all this evening, that because it failed to have a second, there was no recommendation.
Okay, and is that in our code?
That's just following Robert's rules of the process.
So I'd find that in Robert's rules?
I believe so.
Or our code? It's not in our code book?
It's not in our code. We follow Robert's rules for all of our meeting processes and etiquette.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, let's vote.
The motion passed. The votes were Alderman Denham, no. Alderman Skanes, yes. Alderman Cooper, yes. Alderman Fenton, yes. Alderman Whitus, yes. And Alderman C, yes. Your Honor, the next item is a presentation and discussion of various city fees for various requests and activities. This is a continuation from the September 23rd, 2021 study session.
So we'll begin with the report from Kendall Powell, please.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. I believe we left off on slide 40. Scroll forward. Okay. So we left off on our slide 40, which is the comparison of the area cities, where it shows our water rate compared to some surrounding cities. And I know you had some comments on that. So next slide. Next slide. Go ahead. Yeah. Next slide. It's addressing the sanitary sewer service charges, our basic monthly rate, similar to our water service charges. This base rate includes the 2,000 gallons of first usage with that base rate. And then, again, any customers outside the city limits, it's 2.5 times that normal amount is what we charge for that base rate.
Excuse me, Kendall, I
Yes.
just have a question. On the outside city limits, 250%, how many agreements or how many do we have existing right now that are not in the city limits and pay the 250% above?
So are you asking how many customers that we have that pays to 250%?
Sure.
I don't have that right off the top of my head, but I can get that for you. So pretty much Bee Creek area would be an example all the customers in the Bee Creek watershed are mainly outside the city limits, so they are charged 2.5 times the normal rate.
Are there some that are in that category that are contiguous to where it could start a domino to where we can annex them in?
That's something that I'd have to look into to see where we all are with that at that point, to see if that continuation, or that if there is properties contiguous with us, that we could start that. Now, we do have an agreement with the county in itself that is due to expire here here pretty soon. But again, that's something we'd have to do a whole nother research on.
Okay, and then that renewal would come through the board?
I'm sorry?
If that renewal would come through the board?
That particular renewal, basically, I need to consult with Chris Lebec, our city attorney, on that agreement. But it went through a series of process. There was even a judgment brought down on that agreement as well to set the standard for how we allow people to connect to the sewer system out in that area. Along with that, we have the option to purchase that system. Right now, we're just under obligation for operations and maintenance per this agreement. But again, once those bonds are paid off, and if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, those bonds are paid off now. The county has paid off that entire system through the sewer sales tax dollars. And they actually have approached me to find out if we would like to purchase that agreement, purchase that system from them. I believe it's $100 to purchase that entire system. And now we have to weigh the benefits of that and the cons to that itself. So that's something that I'll be taking to administration and see how we want to proceed with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. This next slide shows our usage rate for sewer service. So residential inside of city limits is currently sitting at $2.55 per 1,000 gallons, or a fraction there over 2,000 gallons. And then commercial is at $4.91. So as you can see, we put more of the burden on to the commercial side of things and to give our residents a break on the sewer rate. And again, same outside city limits, 2.5 times the above. And then we have the ability to charge a surcharge for waste in excess of 300 milligrams per liter of BOD per pound. So it's a higher strength of sewer. And again, here's our sewer comparison to the surrounding cities itself. And then our next fee in our Chapter 90 is holding tank waste and special waste charges. So that's so yearly we actually accept waste from pump truck haulers. They can come to us and request an agreement with the city to bring waste and dump it onto our system. So this would be, for example, like a septic hauler, so a company that goes around and pumps septic tanks outside the city limits. They can bring it to us through an agreement, and we charge them based off of these fees here. It's as you can see, it's significantly higher than the standard sewer usage at $10.11 per 1,000 gallons, and that's with the BOD of 600 milligrams per liter. And then special waste, which is even greater strength between that 600 to 10,000 milligrams per liter, is $21.37 per 1,000. Then Chapter 9037, we have a admin fee of $1.50. So this is added to the billings. Part of that is we have to obtain water usage data from other companies. So as you know, the city of Branson is not only served by the city itself, but we also we serve sewer to Water District Number 3 area and also Missouri American itself. So we actually have to pay to obtain those water meter readings so that we can bill for sewer. So for example, Missouri American, we pay roughly $3,000 a year to them to obtain their meter readings. And then District 3, we typically, we pay around $18,000 annually to Water District 3 just to obtain their readings. And that way we can bill for sewer. So that, that 90-37 gives us the ability to collect that back from the customer itself. Then 90-38 is disconnection and reconnection charges. So we charge a standard 5% late charge for the first notice. And then for the second notice, this is where we actually, our utility crews, our meter maintenance crew, they go out and post on the customer's door a second notice. It's a $13 charge for that. That gets charged to the customer. And then if they haven't paid their bill by the shut-off date, then we charge a $13 fee for shutting off the meter, and then we charge $13 to turn back on the meter. So in 2013, we had it at set at $10 per second notice and disconnection charge and reconnection charge, and then in 2016 we upped it to $13. If you look at other cities, it's kind of it's all over the place. What they charge, pretty standard though, on that on a percentage for the first late fee. As you see, we're at 5%. There's some cities that go up to 20%. And then 90-42, we have temporary water meters. We allow for contractors to come in and put a deposit down on a meter to connect to the fire hydrants. So we charge them a deposit and then also a rental fee for a 30-day period plus the amount of water that's actually used based off our normal rates itself. And then we have a water service plumbing permit, and that's actually our inspection fee. So when someone comes in and visits Joel in the planning department and applies for a plumbing permit, we're able to charge an inspection fee for our staff to go out on site and to inspect their work. So residential inspection fee is $25 and commercial inspection fee is $37 itself. And on that, we've been collecting data from our staff. They keep track of every inspection that they go on. They also keep track of their mileage, how many miles it takes them to get to the inspection site, how much drive time, how much staff time per inspection, and we've been gathering up a database on that. So we're recouping approximately 80% cost on that right now. Again, other comparisons with cities, it's kind of all over the place. Varies greatly. Some of it's included into their overall permit fee. So their inspection fees are incorporated into the permit fee. Some charge a separate inspection fee like we do. Some don't charge a fee at all. Then 90-79, we charge a sanitary dump station fee. So when a hotel or a theater has what's called a dump station, or for RVs or for tour buses, we charge them $250 per year to have that connection to our sewer system. So we go around annually and check to make sure those are still in operations and give an update to the finance department, and then they in turn bill out that service.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
But is that included, that item right there, for us grease traps as well for restaurants? Is that a separate fee we're going to get to, or?
So actually, we don't charge anything for grease traps themselves. So grease traps, the property owner is responsible for having those pumped on a regular basis. So they got to pump them every 3 months or when they reach 25%.
Like, let's say Borman's used to come out and do
Yeah.
ours. Where do they dump that?
So they usually dump that in the city of Springfield because their treatment plant has the capability of processing that grease.
Okay,
Whereas the city of Branson, we do not.
thank you.
Yep. Okay, Chapter 90, Section 81 is our water and sewer system connection charges. So this is a charge that gets implemented whenever someone comes in to Joel's department. It all starts in Joel's department. But when someone comes in for a permit, we assess during the plan review process. We look at the type of construction, basically the use of the construction. We look at the water meter size, and that equates to what I'll show you here in a minute, our system connection charge. What this does is it basically buys their capacity out of the sewer system itself and the water system. So a quick definition here is system connection charge is a one-time fee paid by new development to finance construction of the public facilities needed to serve them. And stated another way, system connection charges are a contribution of capital to either reimburse existing customers for available capacity in the existing system or to help finance planned future growth-related capital improvements. These charges are intended to provide funds to the utility to finance all or part of capital improvements needed to serve or accommodate new customer growth. And the way that's figured is our system value divided by the system capacity, and it equals what's called a system connection charge, and that's a dollar amount per equivalent residential unit. And I'll try to get into a little bit more explanation on that here in just a second.
Question for you,
Yes.
just real quick. Remember, we discussed the rebuild of our system, and hopefully the infrastructure money would be able to take care of it. Are we talking about these would also apply to the rebuild of the system?
Yes, correct. So system connection charges can go to use for new construction, but also upgrades of existing infrastructure. So it could be to upsize a sewer main or a water line, or simply replace due to age. And the if it starts to fail or leak, then we can use this as a funding source for that.
Would you, this is a hypothetical. Let's say the money was actually put into the infrastructure bill to cover that. We wouldn't charge that again. We would charge this off to the reconstruction, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So this, just a quick additional information. So we typically will see on an annual basis of around $300,000 that we collect on sewer system connection charges, and about around $40,000 on water system connection charges. Of course, our sewer system is quite a bit larger than our water system, and we have several customers out in District 3 area or Missouri American area, so we don't charge a water system connection charge. We just charge sewer system connection charge only for that. And again, it's based off the water meter size, so the water meter is sized to a certain volume of water can go through that water meter, and that's how it all equates into this charge. A little bit past history. We originally, before 2010, we did not charge a water system connection charge. We only charged sewer capacity fees. And the sewer capacity fee was outdated. It was basically, if you would, let's say, for example, you built a theater, you have to do a theater seat count, and for every seat, there was a certain gallons of water estimated per day use, which equated to the sewer connection or sewer capacity charge. So it was outdated, and there wasn't a lot of history behind it. So in 2010, we hired HDR Engineering to look at our overall system fee structure and to make a recommendation to us on what would be the best approach for our city, and they worked up this the system connection charges based off of their past experience. And there's a whole study and report behind it that puts the best practices together and and gave us a recommendation itself. So that was implemented in 2010. And so just to kind of give you an idea, this table here is from 2014 when we last updated it. 2010, our maximum allowable charge for water was $2,740, where in 2014 it jumped to $3,950 for that connection. And then on sewer in 2010 it was $2,360, and in 2014 it went to $3,610. So that again is based off of system value and capacity available. So as we evaluate the system, we add more capital projects to the system, then that got reevaluated. It increased the charge amount. Now, we don't charge the full amount. We don't charge 100%. I'll get into those slides here in just a minute. I'll show you what we do charge. Again, this would be, what's shown on here would be what theoretically back in 2014, what it would take to recoup our cost for connections. And this is for a single-family residential home with a 3/4 inch water meter. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the weighting factors. So a 3/4 inch water meter is a weighting factor of 1, which would be equals to what's shown on the screen. And then when you step up to an inch meter, then you'd multiply those numbers by 1.67. And same on for the 1.5 inch and 2 inch and 3 inch and 4 inch and larger. So what that looks like for a water system connection charge, let me back up and say that we have 3 different categories. We have a residential category, which is single family and multifamily dwellings. Then we have 2 different commercial categories I'll get into here in just a minute. So on the residential, we currently charge 30% of our maximum allowable at this point. So we charge for a 3/4 inch meter, single family residential home, or it could be a multifamily home with a 3/4 inch meter. We charge $1,200 connection charge for them to connect to the system. Again, 1 inch meter is a little over 2,000, and as you see, it gains in the meter size. As your meter size goes up, the charge goes up. On commercial class 1, which is retail sales, office buildings, nightly rentals, and individual meters, we charge 43% of the maximum allowable on the water side. So you can see with a 3/4 inch meter, it jumps up to $1,700 per connection. And then commercial class 2, which is all other remaining commercial customers that are not in the class 1, with a 3/4 inch, we charge 50% of the maximum allowable, and that's $2,000 for a 3/4 inch meter. And here's a comparison to some other cities itself, where we fall with connection charges. And again, I'll reiterate that each city is different in their needs and with their infrastructure. It's based off of course, we have a significant amount of lift stations for the sewer side. In our water system, we operate surface water treatment plants. So the need is quite a bit different than other cities itself. And then here's a 2 inch water connection fee comparison for a commercial customer.
The moral of the story is don't build in Shawnee, Kansas. Is that what you're saying?
They're significantly higher for that area.
I'd say.
So sewer system connection charges, the residential side is set at 49% of maximum allowable. And that's for a 3/4 inch meter with residential use of $1,800. Commercial class 1, 60% of maximum allowable at $2,200 for 3/4 inch meter. And then for commercial class 2 is 77% of maximum allowable, and that's $2,800 for 3/4 inch. As you see, if you get up into a 6-inch meter, it's a pretty substantial cost.
That's a lot of water usage though, right there.
And it's all based off of volume going through the meter. So this methodology, I think fits well because it actually makes, it really puts it back into the developer's hands to choose on what size meter they need for the development, as well as, okay, can I connect into, say, an existing meter? So say I had a call the other day from a development taking place right now, and they originally planned on installing a new meter for their commercial addition. Well, there was system connection charges attached to that. So they called me and reached out to me and said, hey, you know, what is this? And give them a little bit of explanation. And so what it boiled down to, we determined they really just wanted to put a new meter in place because it was easier for them during construction instead of them connecting on to their existing system. So they found out it'd be cheaper on them as far as for charges if they just tie into their existing water system. So that's what they're going to do. The offset of the construction work versus the fee, for their purpose, it makes better sense just to connect onto their existing. So.
What kind of, is there an example of what size building or business would require that 6-inch meter?
For example, the Hilton down at the Atlantic Convention Center, it's a 6-inch meter. Wow. It's Whitewater, be another example, 6-inch meter. Water parks, big amusements, facilities. Actually, Celebration City probably has, I'm thinking they're 8-inch in size, if I remember right. So. And one thing to keep in mind too is we actually, per the ordinance, we give credit to existing connections. So if somebody was to tear down a commercial structure that, say, was a restaurant, which is the highest classification, a class 2, it had a 2-inch meter there, they would receive credit for a 2-inch connection. So as long as they go back with a 2-inch meter, then theoretically they don't owe any additional charges when they come and redevelop the property itself, because they've technically already bought their capacity out of the system. So. And then on the sewer side, here's some examples on the sewer. This is a residential customer, 3/4 inch meter. And then the comparison of the 2-inch customer. And we're on to I think this is my last slide. So this is the 90-130, which is a sewer service plumbing permit, very similar to our water service plumbing permit. This would be the residential inspection fee of $36 and a commercial inspection fee of $73. And again, we've been tracking our staff time, mileage of vehicles, drive times to help us keep in check of that charge to make sure we're being fair. And like I said, we're running about 80% cost recovery right now. So. And here's some other examples of other cities with that inspection fees. So there's some that, like Joplin, you're at $100 to $400 depending upon the situation.
See, if you go over to Shawnee, Kansas, it's all included in their permit fee.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
Great bunch of guys they are. Oh.
Yeah. I believe that's the end of my presentation. I'll hand it over to Joel unless you have any further questions for me.
Thank you, Kendall.
Yep, thank you.
Now for the fees I'm sure you've all been waiting for. Those out of the Planning and Development Department. So quickly, as everyone else has before me, just going over our primary responsibilities that our department takes care of. Branson Municipal Code, Chapter 18, which handles all the building-related activities for construction, and then Chapter 94 for zoning. You see all the various permits and requests that can be made under both, and I'm going to go through all of these and discuss the fees with you. Each slide, just to kind of orient you on all the information we've provided. Down the middle in the column, we list the topics, so in this case, building, then the request permit, and this one happens to be residential, and we provide next to that how many requests a year we get approximately. So we get about 1,800 residential permits for construction, and then we go through the amount of time it takes staff to do those. In this case, it's about 24 hours plus, depending on the complexity of the project. That includes both plan review, processing of the applications, driving to and from and conducting inspections. And then we've averaged a cost out based on that time, and in this case, $960. Then on the left-hand side, in the blue, we give historic reference of what the fees have been over the past 10 or 11 years. So for instance, you'll see the processing fee had been $50 in 2010. It was increased to $53 in 2016 and then reduced back down in 2018 to $50. Our plan review fee had been 25% of the permit fee in 2010 and then was increased to 50% of the permit fee in 2013, has remained at that ever since. And then the permit fee itself was $4.25 per $1,000 of construction value, and that was increased to $5.30 times 1,000 per construction value. I know it was brought up quite recently about our fees, since we've implemented Citizen Serve and kind of eager to see how things have panned out. When we had done fees in the past, particularly the 2016 presentation, we were at the beginning stages of implementing a three-step process to get to what was then 90% of recovering our costs. However, in going through the exercise this year, what we found is our costs today are very close to what our fees are. So there's no need, there is no recommendation in my presentation this evening to increase any of our fees. So that's the good news.
The benefit of Citizen Serve.
The benefit of Citizen Serve. It really was a significant gap because we were anticipating trying to get the fee up to, I think it was $7.50 per thousand. So that would be a $2 plus increase per thousand. So the bigger projects, that would have an effect. So there's a direct savings that without having to raise those fees because of Citizen Serve. So I wanted to share that up front.
Joel, just a question on that. When we talked about that, rough number, Citizen Serve, we paid 87,000.
It was, I don't think that high for the implementation out of the gate. I don't remember the exact cost, but I don't believe it was that high.
Okay, and I think you said because of the efficiencies of that, we were able to save 2 employees?
Yeah, easily, yep.
So that, I mean, from the city side, that would have more than paid for the software of Citizen Serve, correct?
Yeah, no doubt. And probably the bigger advantage to the system is back in the day, we had big rolls of plans that both staff had to come from multiple locations around the city to drive down here, pick them up, check them out, drive back, do their work, bring them back, check them in. I mean, it was an unbelievable amount of time that was spent driving around town with plans for the plan reviewers and our customers. I remember Chuck O'Day bringing in a wheelbarrow full of plans when they did the aquarium because we required 6 sets, significant rolls of paper, or consultants from St. Louis or Kansas City having to FedEx those sets down, significant costs, both printing and shipping. So we really believe it's been a benefit for staff and our customer, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So staying with our residential building permits, we, as everyone else did the comparison. What we're showing is we're recovering 89% of our costs, which I kind of alluded to on the earlier slide. And here's a breakdown of the other cities in our area. One other thing I wanted to point out on this slide is some of the cities do value-based, like Branson. When I say that, I mean the applicant walks in and says, my project will be, in this case, $100,000, so their permit fee and plan review fee are based on that amount they provide to us. Whereas other cities, they do square footage based. So in this case, 1,200 square foot home, we use a calculation out of the International Code Council book based on our operating costs for the building department, and it comes out with an equation that basically says you owe this. So there's two ways of doing it. The one challenge with the value base is 9 times out of 10, it's subjective on the applicant's part, and some people know the system better than others, so they'll save themselves a couple of dollars by saying the construction costs are a little less. When they're really out of whack, we'll question it and have that conversation, but we definitely don't do that with every single permit. Moving on to commercial, you see an increase in staff time. As a result, increase in investment that the staff provides to this process to the tune of $2,200 on average. Again, some projects may be more, some projects may be less. And then a comparison based on just a sample project. We came up with a 3,000 square foot office space, said to be about $250,000 to build, so kind of right in the middle for that comparison. Getting into the planning-related items, the first up is land disturbance. This is an item we implemented in 2016, and we do not have any fee for this. Staff takes about 12 hours to do their work, their review, their inspections, to the tune of about $480, and again, there is no current fee for this permit. Comparison, there are 3 other cities that have a land disturbance permit that we looked up against, and you can see that we're obviously at the bottom with a 0 permit. I will mention we do require a security, and that's simply they give us an amount of money based on the size of the project, and once they meet certain thresholds, we deposit that back to them. So if they do what they're supposed to at the end of the project, they get all that money back. Next up is annexation. We get about 5 of these a year. It takes staff roughly about 12 and a half hours, so that equates to $500 of staff time. And as you can see, based on our fee, we charge $347, so we're covering about 69% on that one and fall right in the middle of comparison. For a zoning change, we get about 8 to 10 a year for this, 20 plus hours, give or take, for $820. We charge $760, so we're recovering roughly about 93% of this. Next, for plan developments, these have really decreased. We only get maybe 1, and usually those are plan development amendments or repealing a plan development. These take a little bit more time. There's a lot more departments involved, so we get up to 30 hours for these, $1,220. Based on our fee of $1,089, we're recovering 89% of that fee. Moving into subdivisions, the first is being the minor. Minor is a process that's handled administratively. It doesn't require any planning commission or board of aldermen review. We get about 20 to 25 of these a year. They would be lot splits, condominium splits. They only take about 8.5 hours, and so therefore we have a staff time with cost of $340. With a fee of $170, Branson recoups roughly about 50% of that process. The one fee on the comparison I wanted to point out here is Springfield has a range from $60 to $653. That's because, as I mentioned, there's several different things that fall into the minor subdivision, whether it's a lot combination, a lot split, a condominium. So Springfield actually breaks each one of those processes up for a different fee, and that's why they have that range. Moving on to the major subdivision, these obviously take a lot more time and energy from staff to the tune of $940. With a application fee for a preliminary subdivision of $605, and then for the final subdivision, it's $836. So that's what the range represents, recouping our costs of 89%. Street vacation. Again, we don't see a whole lot of these a year. We just get 1, although we have a couple coming up here pretty soon. 20 hours by staff, equating to $820, with a fee of $722, covering about 88%. Next is our vacation for easements. Again, don't see a whole lot of these. Take a little bit less time than street vacations because not as many departments have in-depth work on these, so it's a tune of $580. Which is recovering 89% of our costs. Moving on to special uses, we get about 10 to 15 of these a year, equates to 30 hours of staff time or $1,200. With a fee of $1,014, we're recovering about 85% of our costs. Next up, special events. We get about 10 to 15 of these a year, taking about 20 hours plus of staff time. Probably gets the most looks from multiple departments. We really get our police department involved in this one to the tune of $820. With our tier ones being $140 and our tier threes being $560, we're recovering 68% of staff time with these fees. Temporary uses, we have two different types of temporary uses. We have over-the-counter, which are like garage sale permits or car wash permits if people want to do like a charity car wash. Those happen relatively quickly. We just want to know where it is and when it will be. Then we have our other temporary uses like food trucks and private events on public property. But when we average it out, it takes about 2 hours to do the ones that are not over the counter and staff time of $80. And we're recovering our costs at about 63%. And Republic was the only other city we could find that had the unique nature of the temporary uses. So we fall right in line with them. Getting into signs, starting with temporary, we get 70 to 75 of these a year. It takes about 2 hours, not a significant amount of time for staff. So again, it's 80 hours of time invested by staff. With a application fee of $25, we're recovering 31%. This again falls in line with a lot of other regional cities. Permanent signs, we handle these pretty similar to how we handle building permits. It requires someone to provide a value for the construction cost, and then we base our fee on that. Staff spends roughly about 5 hours reviewing these, so about $200. Looking at our base rate of $25 for a sign permit, that would just simply be a $1,000 valued sign. It puts us towards the bottom. However, just trying to compare apples to apples with Ozark's rate of $120, that would be approximately a $22,000 plus sign, and we'd at that point be recovering 60% of our costs. Usually what we see is a typical sign package for new commercial is anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. Obviously, if you have electronics and digital displays, it can increase pretty quickly, but that's kind of the norm we see is in that range. Getting close to wrapping things up, we have our Board of Adjustment fees for variances and administrative reviews. Again, not a whole lot of those. We get one a year, if that. It takes about 20 hours of staff time to go through those, process those, and eventually present them to the Board of Adjustment, which equates to $800. Recovery rate of 87% with our fees at $696. With that, that's kind of the end. I'm happy to answer.
Can be a test on this, Joel?
No, absolutely not.
What is a sewer connection fee for a 1,200 square foot single-family residence home? Joel, thank you very much. Are there any questions from anybody in the audience?
Mayor, I'll take Shawnee Mission, Kansas for $50.
You could have it. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I'm just, as far as all the fees that were presented through this process, do all departments have the authority to waive fees? Or is that something that is requested and then it comes through city administrator? What's the process and the policy requirements for asking for a fee waiver?
I can only answer for my department. My understanding is to take it to my supervisor and ask for their blessing on that.
And your supervisor would be Stan?
John Manning
John?
or Stan Dobbins, yes, sir.
John, do you have an answer for that one?
I have not waived any fees.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the board?
Well, I know that fees have been waived, and if there's a request, I know Joel said that he's not requesting any additional fees, but I do know that there are fees that have been waived, and so I just have a difficult time with asking our citizens to pay more taxes, fees, whatever it is. You know, it's more money out of their pocket. So knowing the process and the requirements for when fee waivers are requested and are approved, I think that'd be great information for us to use as we decide on responsibly using our taxpayer dollars. So even if we could get a report even like from 2019 to date, the fee waivers, what has actually been waived, that would be great to include while we're going through the budget process. Just a
Okay.
suggestion, thank you.
So Administrator Manning, would you provide the board with any of our fees that have been waived for the calendar years 19, 20, and year-to-date 21? That's what you're asking, Alderman Denham?
Yes, thank you.
Will do, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. Hearing none, we just accept this, correct?
Just a report.
Okay.
Report, presentation.
Good, no test. So move on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Your Honor, the next item is appointments to the Tourism Community Enhancement District, TCED. This appointment process is in accordance with the Board and Committee Appointments Procedure for Category 2 appointments made by the governing body. There are 2 open positions. The Board will be voting on the following applicants, and the 2 applicants receiving the most votes will be appointed to the TCED with terms beginning October 1st, 2021 and expiring September 30th, 2024. The mayor will only vote to break a tie. The floor is open for a motion to vote by ballot on the following applicants for the TCED: Rob Johns, Marshall Howden, Steve Presley, Sue Braun, Cindy Mary, Randy Brashears, Audrey Richards, Sam Voisin, Chris Lucci, Stephen Marshall.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, do we ask for input from those in the audience? Or comments?
At this time, we would be voting. It's up to you if you want any discussion.
Well, I just noticed that there's some people here, and I think they were anticipating being able to speak, so I'd like to open it up for anybody in the audience wishing to share.
Hi, I'm Cindy Mary, 67 Melody Manor Lane, and thanks for letting me come up here and ask for your vote to be on the Tourism Community Enhancement District Board of Directors. I've been working in marketing in Branson since a long time ago, and in fact, helped pass the tax for the TCED. The second time it went around, the first time it failed. As the bulk of the 1% tax that's collected for the TCED comes from the businesses inside the city limits of Branson, I think that the TCED representative appointed by Branson should represent the interests of those businesses. And in addition, the businesses inside the city limit of Branson collect 4% tax on hotels, attractions, and theaters, and 0.5% tax on restaurants. Of that tax, a percentage is used for marketing, and the city contracts with the Chamber of Commerce to use that money. And in that contract, it tells the Chamber of Commerce to work with the MOC committee to create the plan. That MOC committee is not a committee of the Chamber of Commerce, and it's not a committee of the city of Branson. It's a committee of the TCED. Therefore, I think that the representative that's going to go to these meetings should further the interest of acquiring customers inside the city limits of Branson and make sure that that goal is championed. The Marketing Oversight Committee is comprised of people who have been involved in marketing Branson for a long time. They do a good job. But I believe that the goals of each of the different entities are not all exactly the same. So I think that we should look as aldermen at the businesses that are collecting the taxes and always push that goals are achieved for those businesses with those tax dollars. And those goals, one of them is to grow the numbers of visitors that come to Branson and inside the city limits of Branson. And we all know that numbers are tossed around constantly saying there's 9 million visitors, 10 million visitors, 12 million, 11. Not accurate. And the thing is, we need to get more visitors. So it's important to understand that we keep building a lot of stuff for people to do inside Branson, but we're not necessarily getting enough visitors to create business for everybody, which would, if you had a goal to create more customers using Branson's businesses, it would increase your tax revenues, which, if you did that and had a goal that said, the goal currently in the contract with the chamber says it's to increase the numbers. But there's no real percentage, there's no real number. You might at least say, let's increase it to meet or exceed the rate of inflation, which it doesn't, which is one of the reasons why the city's sort of facing this $400,000 shortfall, because year after year after year, we don't meet even the mild inflation rate. I also believe that there that in 2016, the Moody's downgraded the level of bond assurances for the city of Branson by 2 degrees. And they did that because they said that we had excessive debt and stagnant tax growth. So I believe that your representative to the Tourism Community Enhancement District should be having a goal, again, to represent what's in the best interest of the city of Branson. And the other thing is that I think that somebody like me could provide different ideas to the TCED. For instance, the research on the Chamber's website indicates that through August of 2021, we had 19% of our visitors were first-time visitors, 88% were repeat. Furthermore, in the same research, over 74% of the visitors said they didn't consider any other destination besides Branson. So traditionally, that sometimes is run even higher. Now, one of the Chamber's goals in their 2021 marketing plan presented to you was, and I'm going to paraphrase this, hype what is new. But in reality, when you only hype what is new to some degree, you're talking to your repeat customers because they're coming back to Branson, they're looking for something new to do. But if we look at the #1 driver, according to the research on the Chamber's website, is shows, music shows. Sojourn said that in 2018, said that over 42 million visitors came to Branson, or not to Branson, 42 million visitors traveled for music festivals and events. And I say, why not go after those 42 million visitors that haven't possibly been to Branson and market to them and really emphasize music shows year-round. You can access them all the time. And also a goal of the city of Branson is to increase the demand for all other local attractions, including live shows and entertainment located in Branson by visitors of all ages. So the point is there are existing businesses with available inventory to increase the number of visitors to purchase, to go and utilize those things. And if we did that, it might help get us out of this little tax problem. So, my final point is a lot of the people, almost all of them, that sit on all these committees are members of the Chamber of Commerce, which is a great thing. But I think that there are a lot of businesses inside the city limits of Branson that are not members of the Chamber, and it would be good to have other viewpoints and more involvement and more transparency for all of the businesses. And so I hope you'll vote for me. Any questions?
Any questions for Cindy?
Yeah, can you go a little more on why you think it's important, the live music shows, why that is so important to our marketing? Can you just elaborate on it?
Yeah, I think that, first off, if you go to our website right now, explorebranson.com, which the city owns, and the TCD leases over a 5-year period for $1 a year. On that website, you'll find them talk about acrobatic shows, magic shows, other kinds of shows, theatrical shows.
Country.
Music shows aren't mentioned. But the reality is that we made our brand with 60 Minutes, live country music show capital of the world. And then as a marketing thing, we moved it into live music show so we could take in Andy and Bobby and all those guys that came. Music is fundamental to all people. And so it's not that we're dismissing that there's other types of shows. We're just saying that we lead with live music. That's who we are. That's our lead. Because that's what our customers, our potential customers, are really looking for. And when we drop that word music, we're losing a unique identifier. Live shows can be anything, and that's nice, but we don't want to be just anything. We want to kind of hone in on the word, what music does for people. 42 people traveled. Why can't we say we have a music festival year-round going on all the time? So that's why I think music's very important. And if I was involved in driving the marketing, I'd go for creating a music song for Branson. I'd take our talent and our writers and stuff and come up with our own unique music that reflects who we are. And I think we just sometimes lose sight of the fact of how important that is.
Like a theme song.
A
Like
theme
Branson's
song.
theme song.
Yes.
I like that.
Gilligan's Island, you know.
I like it.
Yes. Any other questions?
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
I wanted to put, I wanted to put a chart up because I don't get to vote for TCD members. But would you scroll down just a little bit? No, the other way. There. I believe that the city's representatives do need to, obviously they're to help focus on the TCED district as far as marketing. I've attended a lot of the meetings, and I've looked at a lot of numbers, and recently going through our budget, I'm going back in time to see how we found ourselves in this place. So I was going to present this, I probably still will, but Thursday, we have a 4-hour budget meeting, so I'm going to bring this up in our meeting. But since you brought it up, I just wanted to put this up here. I'm using the 2019 year-end marketing report from the CVB because I didn't want to influence it with COVID 20 and 21 with our upside. So if you'd scroll down, I think this is important for all of us to see. So this was from the Chamber's end of year 2019 report. Now keep in mind, 2019 was our record year. So Branson's 1% sales tax and tourism tax revenues in 19 were lower than last year's, while other tax sources experienced year-over-year growth. So I guess this one just jumped off the page at me because I know we're dealing with the monies that our city collects for TCD, and then we have the contract with CVB for marketing. But this one, I guess I wanted to get into this data more because when we look at where we're spending our money and how we're spending and what we're promoting, boy, it sure seems that Branson isn't faring as well. So I don't know the answers to it. I think I'm just going to bring this up as more of questions, and I thought it was appropriate to bring it up when we're talking about who we're going to elect for our TCD.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to bring us back to focus to the vote on this, the people we're doing, because we're way off base talking about the rest of it. We're supposed to be talking about the people that we want to put on there, not this ancillary stuff. We just not, it's not the time for it.
Thank you, Alderman Skanes. I thought
Yes,
it
sir.
was appropriate to
Well,
talk
you and I have
about
seen this, I don't know how many times.
as as we're voting, as the city board of aldermen are voting, who's going to represent the city on the TCD tax, I thought this was appropriate because I think this.
They couldn't have changed any of that.
What's that?
They couldn't have changed any of that. None of this, none of the people that's in here would have changed any of this. You have to go moving forward, but we need to be discussing who we're going to be putting on the board, not history. We're talking about moving forward. Talking about the guy who helped form this tourism district and wrote the systems.
Boy, Bill, we all know that you created the internet. This isn't history. This is going back to 2019.
I'm going to get to call the question if we have to go too far into it.
That's
We
fair.
need to be voting on,
That's
discussing
fair.
who is going to be on the board. That's it.
So Alderman Gaines is calling the question. Are the other aldermen wanting, we vote?
Yes, if we want to put in that a form of.
Alderman Gaines has called the question, so we need to vote if the other aldermen are.
It's a motion to call the question, so is there
Oh, is there a second?
A motion to call the question? Is Alderman Gaines making a motion to call this question?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, we have another person wishing to speak.
I know, but once the question's been called, the board has to decide whether we want to call the question now or if we would like to continue to listen to more input. So Alderman Gaines has made a motion to call the question. Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion dies. So now let's listen to other members in the audience.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sue Braun. I live at 373 Elm Point Lane in Kimberling City, Missouri, and I am here as a representative of my company, Classic Creations and More, located at 3000 Green Mountain Drive, Suite 105 in Branson, Missouri. I just wanted to bring up some things from the past that I looked at on the Branson City website. In 2017, the top 10 employers, according to the Branson City website, were Hershon Entertainment, Big Cedar, Wyndham Vacation Ownership, and Summer Winds. To me, that is 4 businesses out of the top 10 that need tourism in order to survive. In 2018, the companies were Hershon Family Entertainment, Big Cedar Resort, and Westgate Resort. So it went down to 3 in 2018. And also in 2018, they did express how much revenue was derived from the different sources of revenue. And let's see, in the arts, entertainment, recreation, accommodations, and food services was 39.5%, and retail trade was 13.4%. And then we go down from there to professional, scientific, management, administrative, and waste management services, 12.5%, and then educational at 10.6%, and finance at 5.5%. In 2019, tourism-related was Hershon Entertainment, Big Cedar Resort, and Westgate Resorts. And in 2020, again, we were with Hershon Family Entertainment, Big Cedar and Bass Pro, Westgate Resorts, and Wyndham Resorts. The city of Branson, again, said that the same things were important. The entertainment and arts were first, retail trade was second, professional was third, education was fourth, and finance was fifth. I am uniquely positioned to gather input to assess the needs of the arts and entertainment industries in Branson through my position as Executive Director of the League of Branson Theater Owners and Show Producers. In addition, my experience with the retail trade through my current ownership of a retail, wholesale, and production business, Classic Creations and More, located at 3000 Green Mountain Drive, and my past 16 years of employment with Liz Claiborne Incorporated at the Tanger Outlet Center give me a broad, hands-on perspective of needs of the top 2 employment industries in the area, which was arts and retail. The TCED administers the money derived from these industries and should be attracting segments of people that come to Branson to spend money in the market. The TCED should have goals for having a certain percentage annually of new people to come to Branson, those that have never been to Branson or who have not visited Branson within the past 5 years. According to the ETC Institute City of Branson Business Survey in 2012, 76% of businesses felt the tourism industry in Branson was extremely important. In 2015, 62% of businesses felt the tourism industry was extremely important. In 2018, again, we went up to 76% of businesses felt that the tourism industry in Branson is extremely important. The TCED has a responsibility to the entire district to use the dollars entrusted to them to attract people that will pay for, appreciate, and give positive word of mouth about Branson and return regularly and bring family and friends with them. The businesses in Branson need the revenue, and the City of Branson and TCED need the sales tax revenues. I am here to accept the responsibilities involved with the TCED, ask the tough questions when necessary, establish goals and seek accountability for those goals, and serve to the best of my ability. Our future economy depends on it. I thank you, Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, the people from Branson, and I do want to serve on the TCED board.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Next speaker.
Good evening. Michael London, 1620 Miller Drive, Branson, Missouri. I have a handout. I'll pass along here.
Need to give them to.
It's open to one page, and I would prefer that you just keep it open to that particular page rather than looking through it until I direct you otherwise.
And Michael, I'm trusting that what you're handing out has to do with our voting on the TCD.
Absolutely. This is directly and only to that particular topic. You know, if you keep doing the same old thing, you're going to get the same old results. And here's the results that the current situation that we're in. The City of Branson 4% tourism tax collections have not kept up with inflation. The TCED was formed in 2006, and you'll notice that in 2006, that the calendar date's there on the left column, but the first column to the right of that says the taxes need to beat a 2% inflation. So that 11,450, 667 number is what was actually collected in the tourism tax in 2006. The number below it would be the number above it plus 2%. And that successively goes down the column such that if you go down to 2019, again highlighted because we don't want to keep the COVID situation out of it, you will see that in order for the City of Branson to have the same spending power, because that's what inflation does, it erodes your spending power, we would have needed to have taken in tourism tax collections $14.8 million. What we actually took in was 12.9. And each of the years before that, in that third column, you can see what the total tax was compared to the 2% inflation goal. You need to increase your revenues by 2% a year at the current rate of inflation over the last decade plus to be able to have the same amount of spending power. Each year you don't do that, you lose real spendable power. The final column is the cumulative gain or loss. So as compared to the 2% goal, just to have the same spending power in 2007, we actually had a cumulative gain that year. However, if you look down and carry it to the 2019 year, to the fourth column, the last column on the right rather, cumulatively, from the time that the tourism tax, the TCED tax began, the city of Branson has lost $14 million worth of spending power. And that's because the TCED has failed to be able to use the city's marketing money to create enough people to come to this area. Everybody pats themselves on the back saying, oh, the numbers are up, the numbers are up, the numbers are up. But you've got less money and less spending power. And the reason why is because the TCED is blind to the problems that they allow to linger and create. One of them is very visible right now on the website. The website, explorebranson.com, is the reflection of the marketing plan of the city of the Branson Chamber of Commerce under the TCED. It's the official place of the community. It reflects what our best message to our consumers. It currently says, if you open it up, first off, there's the point that Cindy made. It talks about having over 100 live shows. It doesn't use the word music. So that's a blindness that the people who allow this to sit there don't recognize, yet it has been brought up again and again and again in various committees. You go down, the very first major article, fun things to do in Branson. Oh, excuse me, top things to do in Branson. See the list. You go to the list, there's not a single thing about music shows or shows. It's a list of attractions. Now, the outside world doesn't know that when you say attractions in Branson.
Michael, excuse me.
Yeah.
I think you're bringing up some great points. I think right now, what's on the discussion is who.
Okay, well, I'll bring it directly to that. Who
Okay.
should? You should not vote. I'm going to say who you should not vote for. You should not vote for anybody who's been involved in the TCED already, because that is part of a group of people who have a particular way of doing things and a particular way of looking at things. You should vote for somebody with new eyes who hasn't been part of that group so that they can come in and take a look at it. Now, specifically, you know, Steve Presley and the Presleys and the history of this town, I respect immensely, and all the work that he's done, et cetera. Yet, he's been part of this whole group who's doing this thing the same way over and over and over again. And we need new blood looking at the whole situation. That's the bottom line. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Marshall Howden, 106 Rosanna. I'll keep mine very brief. I'm going to read the Marketing Advisory Committee as it is stated on the TCED website. Ann McDowell, McDowell Consulting, Ty Lewis, Branson Airport, Michelle Herzan, Resort Owner, Becky Jewsbury, Westgate Resorts, John Manning, City of Branson, Chris Meyer, Meyer Hospitality, Janet Aller, Silver Dollar City, Steve Presley, Presley's Theater, Nikki Seville's, Branson Landing, Sheila Thomas, Table Rock Lake Chamber of Commerce, Julie Wilson, the Track Family Fun Parks. You all know that I have a perspective. I advocate for the live music shows, as a lot of these folks do as well. But that's one of the 11 that represents live music shows. Maybe you don't agree with me or some of my cohorts here who believe it should be the #1 driver, you know, but it should be more than one than just the 11. I think these two ladies here who serve on the Theater League would be great additions to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall. Any other speakers?
I would have brought ribs, Bill, if I knew we were gonna take an extra time tonight. But obviously, I have served on the TCD in the past, and have actually part of a live show and owned and operated. Randy Brashears, 196 Barnes Lane.
Thank you, Randy.
Sorry, Larry. But Mr. Mayor, But, so the TCED, I think, has had a successful track record. I have been on the board, served at, on the renewal. Coming up with the TCED is also another renewal. Have been the city representative for 2 terms, have worked with the city and implemented some things that we talked about with the aldermen, some that are on the board to here today and not. So, I would ask for your vote. I think it's important to have some continuity as well. And again, I understand that it's a city appointment, but it also is a larger district that we have to promote and work together. And from my history on the board, that's what we've done, is promoting the other areas as well, working together to do that. And I think that's important. What we've done with the MOC and some things have been positives for the TCD. So thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Anyone else? Any comments or questions from the board prior to voting? Hearing none, let's vote.
We're going to vote by ballot, and you'll be voting for 2. Ruth Denham voted for Sue Braun and Cindy Mary. Bill Skanes voted for Steve Presley and Chris Lucci. Clay Cooper voted for Sue Braun and Cindy Mary. Cody Fenton voted for Rob Johns and Sam Voisin. Jamie Whitus voted for Rob Johns and Steve Presley. And Jess C. voted for Rob Johns and Chris Lucci. Rob Johns received 3 votes. Marshall Howden received no votes. Steve Presley received 2 votes. Sue Braun received 2 votes. Cindy Mary received 2 votes. Randy Brashear received 0 votes. Audrey Richards received 0 votes. Sam Voisin received 1 vote. Chris Lucci received 2 votes. And Stephen Marshall received no votes. Just double checking, we have 12 votes. That would make Rob Johns received enough votes to be on the board for 1 at 3 votes. We have a tie, which mayor will vote to break the tie of the next group. So mayor, that would be Steve Presley had 2 votes, Sue Braun had 2 votes, Cindy Mary had 2 votes, and Chris Lucci had 2 votes. So we will need your vote to break the tie on that.
Do it by secret ballot so I don't hurt anybody's feelings.
I'm pretty sure they'll know who it is.
I'll tell you, I was very impressed with the list of 10 that submitted their names. But I'll tell you, in my heart of hearts, I'm gonna ask Cindy Mary to be on the TCD board. I've served with Cindy on some DMC, MOC, MAC, and I know Cindy has her opinions. The one thing I've always admired about her is she always speaks her mind. I think she's respectful, but she speaks her mind and has an awful lot of Branson marking experience background. So thank you for serving.
Thank you, Your Honor. Are we ready to move on?
Yes, please.
The next item is disbursements. The floor is open for a motion to acknowledge the receipt of disbursements from August 6, 2021 through August 27, 2021.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from members of the board? Hearing none, let's vote.
The vote carries 6-0.
We'll move on to reports. Alderman Denham, any reports this evening?
I have none, Mayor.
Alderman Skanes?
No, sir.
Alderman Cooper?
No, sir.
Oh, you've always got something to say.
I'm changing it up. I'll yield my time to Alderman Fenton.
Well, oh, brother, we'll skip Alderman Fenton and go to, Alderman Fenton, any comments?
You know I have to talk.
Yeah.
Just real quick, Mayor and I received an invite to visit Faith Community Health here in town. Had an opportunity to do that yesterday, actually. And I was just absolutely blown away by what they're doing, the services they're providing to our community. So I appreciate them having us out and sharing what they're doing and their mission and the impact they're having on our community. And I look forward to that being a continued offering here for hopefully many years to come. So thank you to the folks at Faith Community that invited us. And I appreciated being able to go and take that tour and learn more about what's going on there. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Alderman Whitus?
I just want to go off that, how we start our meeting. National Night Out next Tuesday, so Alderman, we don't have a meeting that night, so you can get out and enjoy that. So just go out and support, and thank you, Chief Matthews and your group for putting all that together.
Alderman White, is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Oh, I had Wednesday. People are laughing at me, not with me. Alderman C?
Yeah, I think on National Night Out, I think we got 3 parties we have to attend to, so thanks for mentioning that. Michael, I'm 100% behind you on Ozark Mountain Christmas. I was on the board in 2018, and I was pretty vocal about it, but I agree with you on that, so. And then I believe on social media, I saw some people service years with Branson. I think we already acknowledged Cindy from the Parks Department, and I believe we had a dispatcher for 25 years. So that's pretty good, stay with the city. And Kendall, is Kendall still here?
Yeah, I saw that.
I've been here 32 years. Where have you been for 20 years? I mean, you've been running around here? Well, congratulations. You're 20 years. So.
He started very young.
Yeah, apparently. That's it, thank you.
Assistant Administrator Manning.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say it's an honor to fill in for Administrator Dobbins tonight as he is up at the Missouri Municipal League receiving an award on behalf of the city regarding some of our work last year with COVID. Thank you.
Very nice. I'll make mine brief. I echo what Alderman Fenton said about Faith Community Health. Tremendous organization. I believe Alderman Fenton and I are going to try to get the word out to our community of the unbelievable services they provide our community. And I think a lot of our community could use those services. They just don't know about them. I was honored to present an award at the Terry Awards with Terry Bean. My wife and I presented an award. I think that was a spectacular presentation, red carpet, place was full. I was just honored to be there. Alderman C., I'm very, very glad to hear you make your comments about Ozark Mountain Christmas. I'm 100% on board with that. And with that,
May
8:50.
May I say,
You had your turn.
I know, but I just want to say that I totally agree with the Ozark Mountain Christmas as well, so thank you for bringing that up. Sorry.
I echo that as well.
Very nice. All that said, do I have a motion to adjourn? You're kidding me.
We got to wait for the computer to tell us.
Oh, I was going to say, usually we fight over that one. We have a motion, second to adjourn. All in favor? All right, we have to vote. Come on, vote.
Alderman,
Did everybody vote?
There we go.
that carried 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.